Part 42. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 411. Looking at the actions of these elders, Lin Yi smiled faintly. You really like to do this, but it has no effect on me. In this world, I come and go as I please, and no one can stop me. Even your sects are the same. As he said this, Lin Yi became erratic, and disappeared from the sight of everyone in the conference room. Seeing this scene, all the elders changed their faces, and thoughts from their souls instantly rushed into the ground. But they found nothing, and they got nothing. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Diamond Suit. Lin Yi had disappeared silently in their eyes, and he could not be tracked at all. At this time, a voice was echoing in Huan Yiming's ears. Prepare the Tianjing, I will get it. Huan Yiming nodded slightly when he heard this. Although the current situation was caused by these elders. But this has nothing to do with their empire. Since the bounty has been issued and Lin Yi has solved the case, the reward for Lin Yi will not be deducted. The empire is different from these sections. Even for the sake of the empire's dignity, they will never default on their debts. Otherwise, who would dare to work for the empire in the future? Crossing the river and destroying the bridge, or even killing the task recipient. Isn't this destroying one's own reputation? Madame Rose took a deep look at these elders. She knew that in addition to wanting to mess up the whole world, these people also wanted to damage the reputation of the empire. There was a hint of coldness in her eyes. What a group of cunning guys, without any moral integrity. However, no matter how these sect elders and the empire will develop in the future, Lin Yi has quietly left the mansion at this time. Even the outermost maze chessboard formation could not form any obstacles to him, and he easily passed through. The power of the true destiny is stronger than imagined. Lin Yi appeared silently in the block outside the mansion, looking in the direction of the mansion, and shook his head secretly. These guys underestimated the power of strange beings. Their terror and power are beyond your imagination. It's stupid not to focus on dealing with these strange beings, but to fight in the human camp. Lin Yi sighed, left here quickly, and returned to the Wanchaiwu. The streets around were very quiet along the way. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning, and this mission took him a lot of time. At this time, at the North Pole of the distant northern province, a huge disaster was happening again. At the center of the explosion, a huge glass-like depression with a diameter of 2 to 3 kilometers had already appeared on the ground. The ground was as smooth as fired glass, and a huge space-time crack slowly opened in the center of this pit. A thick black and viscous black liquid surged out of this space-time crack. In a short time, the entire pit was filled. The endless dark clouds in the sky gathered silver lightning and fell like raindrops. It exploded in the viscous black liquid in this pit. Countless strange power smoke drifted out from the black viscous liquid. It quickly spread to the entire world. Even if there were endless lightning falling, it could not cause destructive damage to these liquids and smoke. The changes here quickly attracted the attention of the coalition forces guarding 100 kilometers away. The coalition forces included the army of the empire, the masters of the strange side, and the masters of the sect. At this time, the sky was shrouded in endless dark clouds, and the satellite could not see what was happening. But the current state is obviously exactly the same as when the alien world invaded at the beginning. The entire coalition's defense line immediately started to operate. A huge, radiant energy barrier slowly rose from the ground. This energy barrier covered the border of an area of hundreds of kilometers in radius. The blue light slowly rose and connected to each other, and finally formed a cylindrical defense energy barrier, which went directly into the dark clouds in the sky. The top of the entire defense barrier was an area covered by dark clouds, and endless lightning made up for the last weaknesses and defects of the defense barrier. This defensive barrier is the most advanced weapon of the Empire, and it even incorporates the power of the cultivation path to form this great creation that is almost science fiction. At this time, Behind this barrier, armies are ready to go, wearing protective clothing, and each protective clothing has a special device. This device allows them to pass through the barrier without being blocked by the barrier. But this device is connected to the life brain waves of these people. Once there is any problem with their brain waves or life, they will not be able to pass through this layer of barrier and return to the outside. This is to prevent the existence of other worlds and borrow their bodies to escape the blockade of the barrier. All of this is the product of careful planning. Obviously, the Empire has been studying how to deal with large-scale invasions of other worlds a long time ago. In this regard, the forces on the weird side and the forces on the cultivation path are too different. They can only exist as the vanguard of the entire defense line, and their purpose of existence is to carry out rescue and attack work in the most dangerous places. There are dozens of forces of all sizes on the weird side, and 33 sects of the cultivation path. More than 4,000 people participated in this war. Among them, there are more than 3,000 masters of the human immortal path, about 700 to 800 masters of the ghost immortal path, and even dozens of invincible masters of the earth immortal path. This greatly makes up for the high-end combat power of the Empire and makes the entire defense line more solid. The Empire has also cultivated a large number of mortal warriors, with at least more than 100,000 at the top level. Each of them wears a multifunctional tactical suit, with additional technological power to make up for their own lack of strength. The Empire also has thousands of masters of human immortals and hundreds of ghost immortals. As for the Earth immortal masters, there are also more than a dozen on the surface. In general, the Empire has about 110,000 masters who can release essence or strange power. They are one of the backbones of this war. At this time, at the forefront of this front, there is a bunker, the front line command headquarters. It gathers all the major sects, as well as the strange side and the Empire's high-level leaders who preside over the entire war. They gathered in the conference room, and a huge projection screen appeared in front of them. At this time, the technicians next to him were explaining the entire projected image. According to the unmanned monitors we placed in the explosion area, a space-time crack appeared again at the center of the explosion. At the same time, a large amount of strange power leaked from the space-time crack and even turned into a black lake. Countless strange beings are crawling out of this black lake, at least hundreds of thousands of them. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 412. According to the monitoring of our unmanned surveillance cameras, most of these beings are at the level of mortals, and the number of people at the level of immortals is rare, about 10,000. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. These strange beings are not divided into upper and lower levels, nor do they lead the weak. They seem to be completely independent. According to the suggestions provided by the think tank, send a large number of the latest combat robots to enter the battlefield to strangle these low-level strange beings and retain our manpower to the maximum extent. Use mechanical weapons to fight a war of attrition. Observe the battlefield situation and collect data. At this time, there are about 100 senior officials from major sects and strange forces present. After listening to the suggestions of the think tank, they all chose to agree, and no one opposed this opinion. After all, why not go to the battlefield yourself? And there is another advantage of sending robots, which is that a large amount of data on these strange beings can be collected. As the saying goes, knowing yourself and the enemy will ensure victory in 100 battles. The people in this world are not stupid either. They are very wary of the existence of unknown creatures. At the outermost edge of the energy barrier, the intelligent robots that have been prepared for a long time, equipped with the most advanced laser weapons and heavy firepower weapons, slowly passed through the barrier and entered the war zone. In the front line commander headquarters, the virtual screen shows the light spots of intelligent robots. They are just like locusts, going deep into the protective wall. At this time, on the opposite side of the screen, A dense black light spot is rushing towards these robots. Obviously, the strange beings have begun the formal invasion, and the first wave of enemies they have to face are tens of thousands of combat robots made by the Empire with all their strength. Everyone gave up their concentration and watched the scene of the war that was about to break out quietly. The blue light spots of the robots and the black light spots of the strange beings kept approaching. Finally, about 10 minutes later, the first wave of light spots collided with each other. In the war zone inside the barrier, on a piece of ruined land. The robots with 4 legs and 4 hands have arrived here. Opposite them are countless strange beings of strange shapes, just like a black tide, rushing towards here. These fighting robots slowly raised their 4 arms. 2 of the arms extended blue laser swords, and the other 2 arms revealed the gun barrels hidden in their arms. At the same time, 4 or 5 holes opened on their bodies, and small missiles burst out with fireworks in an instant. Rumble. One by one, the shining missiles rushed into the waves of those strange beings. Fireworks rose from the ground, and countless shrapnel spread out in all directions. Ordinary strange beings were instantly pierced by these shrapnel, and the huge vibration made them fall to the ground. Then countless gunshots continued. Bang, bang, bang. The flames of the bullets gushed out, hitting all the strange beings who were still standing. During the sweep, the strange beings kept falling to the ground like cutting wheat. At this moment, a strange energy shock wave swept forward from the robot's body. These energy shock waves can also connect and merge with each other. It can be seen with the naked eye that a huge 2-meter-high ripple covered the area in front, which was baptized by flames and missiles. A trace of black strange power diffused from those bodies that fell to the ground and shattered. Then it disappeared into the air. Obviously, these strange powers were completely expelled and left the bodies of these strange beings. Strange beings are difficult to kill. Only by removing the strange power in their bodies can their bodies die. But this first wave of attacks are basically strange beings with shapes. In the sky, there is also an illusory strange existence that noticed these combat robots. They rushed towards these military robots with cold murderous intent. At this time, the laser swords in the hands of these combat robots burst into countless dazzling sword lights. The movements of these robots are precise and efficient, as if they were input with countless sword moves. The sword light was just like a sword fairy dancing with a sword, beautiful and full of the breath of death. All the illusory and strange existences that swooped down would be instantly covered by the sword light and then dismembered. Then there was a shock wave that exploded with these robots as the center. All the strange powers in the broken pieces of these illusory and strange existences were expelled. Without the support of the strange power, these illusory and strange existences would naturally shatter and dissipate, and no longer exist. Military robots showed a powerful combat power, even surpassing the human army. However, although robots are powerful, they still have their limits. Most of the strange existences they can deal with are only at the peak of the mortal path. To face the strange existence at the level of the human immortal path, several robots must besiege, and even great sacrifices must be made to kill the opponent. The basic exchange ratio is 5:1. For every 5 combat robots destroyed, a strange existence at the level of the human immortal path will be killed. There are also countless dense thunders falling in the sky, hitting the strange existences running on the ground and flying in the sky. The strange aura emitted by those strange dead beings will also quickly dissipate in the air. This is a pure killing game without any emotion. In the frontline headquarters outside the energy protection wall, everyone was watching the light spots on the projection screen. More than tens of thousands of combat robots were disappearing at an alarming speed. But those strange beings were also disappearing at an alarming speed. At this time, the commander of the Empire who commanded the entire front line, the head of the Empire Marshals Lin Donglei. Looking at the battle situation on the virtual screen, his eyes were slightly relaxed. As long as the combat robots are effective, everything will be fine. At this time, he said to an officer beside him, immediately notify the Empire to strengthen the production of combat robots. Their effect is very huge. The officer immediately stood up straight after receiving the order and said, "Yes, your order." The Empire's military uniforms are dark green, and every officer wears leather boots that reach the calf. This uniform makes people look very heroic. The officer quickly left here, and the sects and strange forces in the headquarters all looked at the battle situation on the screen with a hint of shock. The speed at which strange beings and military robots died on the battlefield made them feel frightened. A pure meat grinder, even a master at the level of human immortals, seems particularly small in this kind of war and may die at any time. Everyone was very silent. They deeply felt the cruelty of war, which was a completely different way of fighting from the past when they fought alone. At this time, the representative of the sect, Genii Taoist, spoke slowly. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 413. His voice was in the ears of many high-level officials. Is this war somewhat beyond our expectations? If the consumption rate continues at this rate, it will be very dangerous for our sect and the people on the weird side. Originally, our plan was for each force to assist the defense line and then go to war. But now it seems that the risk of simply assisting is too great. Our sect may have to change the way of fighting. We must introduce our best strength into this war." When Lin Donglei heard this, he looked at Master Genii. "What does Master Genii mean?" I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Master Genai's eyes swept across all the sect representatives here. First of all, our sect's people can't be divided. Secondly, we have to take out the formation. Each unit of our people must be able to form a formation. Only in this way can we maximize the power of our section. In the future, our sect's support for the front line will be carried out in units of formation. Secondly, we have to set up a large formation connected together behind the energy barrier. The function of the large formation is to prevent the continued expansion of the flaw in case the energy barrier is broken. Double protection for the entire front line. However, to accomplish this, the full support of the Empire is needed. We need a large amount of materials to refine basic magic tools. As he said this, Genii looked at Lin Donglei, and then fell on the strange side forces. This is an improvement that our sect can make, which will maximize the survivability of the entire defense line. But I don't know what means you weird side can come up with. After all, if you only look at personal strength, in such a large-scale war, the role you can play is actually very limited. At this time, the representative of the Weird strategy was a vice president of the Weird Association. Taoist Master Genii is joking. Since your sect is going to take out some strength, we Weird side will naturally take out corresponding things. We will take out 8-second level mobile weird illusions and place them inside the energy barrier. Constitute 8 huge worlds and spaces that are interconnected. Various terrains will be formed in it, such as abandoned cities, mazes, forests, swamps, etc. These spaces will greatly disperse the density of these weird existences. Speed, greatly weakening the number advantage of the weird beings. Then we will form a team to encircle and suppress these weird beings in batches. The energy barrier will become the second line of defense, and the mobile weird illusion we use will become the first line of defense. However, in this process, we also need a lot of materials to transform these 8-second level weird illusions. Each of the second level weird environments in our hands has an area of 10,000 square kilometers. 8 second level weird illusions represent an area of 80,000 square kilometers. Such a huge area is enough to accommodate hundreds of millions of weird beings, and their density can also be controlled. Don't let them form a number advantage. Hearing the words of the vice president of the Weird Association, everyone was shocked. This is a triple defense. The defense line is not as solid as a rock, but it will be very difficult to break through. When Lin Donglei heard this, a hint of joy appeared on his face. Okay, please list what supplies you need as soon as possible, and I will report to the Empire for allocation immediately. The representatives of the weird side and the sect all nodded. As long as the Empire is willing to allocate supplies, these things are not too difficult for them. Secondly, these supplies will inevitably bring them huge benefits. After all, no one will work for nothing. Especially the sect, they are secretly happy in their hearts. They can secretly take advantage of this opportunity to get some supplies from the Empire to supplement the foundation of the sect. After all, the ability of a country to collect supplies is a world of difference from the ability of their sect to collect supplies. They are completely incomparable. The Empire is born with group advantages. Soon the entire Empire began to operate violently. And the war at this time is still going on. The first wave of combat robots has been annihilated, and the wreckage of tens of thousands of robots lies in the center of the battlefield. But the weird beings also suffered at least 100,000 losses, and even more than 200,000. After all, the weird beings at the mortal level are not opponents facing these combat robots at the mortal level. First of all, these robots, each of which has a large number of various martial arts recorded, can be comparable to a professional killer who has been trained for countless years in any killing technique. This is the most terrifying thing about robots. As long as they reach a certain level, all kinds of experience can be mass-produced. It can even be said that the actual combat capability of each military robot is infinitely close to that of a master of the first level of the human immortal way. Ordinary mortals, even masters at the top level, are completely unable to fight against these military robots unless they have extremely rich combat experience. What's more, these robots also have various hot weapons. Even if they are human masters of the human immortal way, if they don't wear a suit to defend against hot weapons, they are definitely no match for these military robots. This is the horror of technology, mass production, crushing everything by quantity. However, the weird existence is not bad either. An endless stream of weird existences continue to rush out from the center of the North Pole. There is no end in sight, they are constantly rushing towards the outside world. A closed area of hundreds of kilometers is just over an hour's journey for them. At this time, in the meeting room of the combat headquarters, Lin Donglei looked at the vice president of the Weird Association, Xuanhuan. Mr. Zhao, can you set up the strange illusion first? The army of strange beings is coming, with hundreds of thousands of people. Although the energy barrier can support it, there is no guarantee that there will be no gaps. At that time, it will have an impact on the entire front line. Zhao Wushuan nodded, that's no problem. When we came out, our strange side had already held a meeting. This second-level strange illusion is ready to deal with the current situation. Now I will notify them immediately and ask them to set up the illusion first to stop the first wave of attacks from these strange beings. After repelling their edge and building a buffer zone in the second-level strange illusion, they will not be able to impact the front line in the short term. And that's when we start to fight back. Lin Donglei nodded, this time the strange side has made a lot of efforts, and the Empire will remember it. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 414. Whatever supplies you need can be directly contacted by the logistics, and they will prepare them for you as soon as possible. Zhao Wushuan nodded when he heard this, turned to one of his subordinates and said, let those who hold weird illusions arrange them. Yes, Mr. Vice President. The order was conveyed quickly. In just a few minutes, someone walked out of the coalition's front line behind the energy barrier. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. They quietly entered the area within the energy barrier. A few minutes later, 8 huge black lights suddenly rose from the barrier area. A hazy illusory time and space appeared at the inner boundary of the energy barrier. These hazy space-times quickly began to spread along the inner wall of the energy barrier. Soon the hazy space and time in these 8 directions were completely connected. A huge ring was formed, forming a circle along the entire energy barrier. This is a huge ring, covering an area of about 10 kilometers. However, these time and space slowly calmed down in the haze, and in the end, no abnormalities could be seen from the outside world, and there was no difference at all from the surrounding time and space. But as soon as you step into the boundary of this strange fantasy, you will directly enter an unknown world. The space-time inside is huge and vast, overlapping and twisted. Any existence that enters from the boundary of the weird illusion will randomly appear anywhere in the weird illusion. The first wave of strange existences has also arrived here. But they disappeared more than 10 kilometers away from the energy barrier. At this time, in these strange illusions, many strange entities appeared randomly in countless areas. Either alone, or in groups of 3 or 5, with at most a dozen appearing in the same place. These strange beings appear in strange illusions, and each of them is a bit inexplicable. Most of the weird beings follow their instincts and don't have much ability to think. It's just filled with demanding demands on flesh and blood. When they entered the strange illusion, they lost the sweet smell of flesh and blood. Instinctively, they began to wander around, looking for new sources of the scent of flesh and blood. When these strange existences are outside, the reason why they attack the energy barrier area is. The reason is because there is the smell of human flesh and blood, which attracts their instincts. When this attraction disappears, they will return to their true nature, wandering around until they find prey. At the frontline conference headquarters, everyone looked at the virtual image projected in the center of the hall. At this time, they clearly captured countless strange beings who entered the strange illusion area and then disappeared. Just listen to Xuanhuan whisper, "The weird illusion is isolated from our time and space. There is no flesh and blood life there. Once these strange beings enter there, they will return to their true nature and wander around at will, thus losing the direction of their attack. As long as the weird illusion is not filled up, they will not be able to touch the boundary of the weird illusion and they will not be able to get out." In the headquarters, the tension in everyone's hearts was slightly relieved. After all, no one wanted to face the impact of hundreds of thousands of strange beings. That means a huge danger. Even if they are ghost immortals or even earth immortals, there is a possibility of falling. In the huge space-time rift at the North Pole, Ai Ching looked towards the distant area, and he seemed to have seen everything that had just happened. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Death struggle. Only death is the greatest justice to all living beings, and I will definitely bring justice to all living beings. Only in this way can the world find peace. You can't stop me. As he spoke, a look of cold impartiality and seriousness appeared on his face. The black scepter in his hand fell towards the ground. Under his feet was a dark, sticky liquid composed of strange power. The moment the tip of the scepter touched the liquid, an invisible ripple spread out into the liquid. Then a huge figure slowly raised its head from the liquid. It was an indescribable creature, hundreds of meters tall. It has a ferocious head that looks like the head of a hunting dog. It's just covered with scales, no fur, and no eyes. Under the head is a body that is getting thicker and thicker. This body is like the body of a python, with a diameter of 10 meters. One after another strange tentacles grew on this body. Each tentacle is hundreds of meters long, and is densely covered with suckers. All suction cups have delicate sharp teeth inside, which seem to be able to swallow everything while trembling slightly. The huge strange creature flows toward the outside world along the black liquid. Countless tentacles, like hands and feet, allowed the giant monster to move quickly on the ground. The direction it moved was clearly the direction of the command headquarters, and its speed was very fast, hundreds of meters per second. Compared to its huge size, this flexible speed is very uncoordinated. At this time, the command headquarters immediately discovered this terrifying monster, and everyone's expressions changed drastically. Marshal Lin Donglei's face showed a trace of solemnity, and he immediately said to the officers beside him, "Immediately send out the second batch of robot armies to besiege this thing. We need data on it." The officer next to him received the order and went down to deliver it. At this time, Lin Donglei looked at Zhao Wushuan and Elder Janai. "You two, this strange existence may have reached the level of earthly immortals, or even above that. Once the Empire's combat robots can't resist, I'm afraid you will have to take action. Otherwise, I can only apply to use the God of the Sun again, and the result will be devastating." Zhao Wushuan and Elder Janai nodded solemnly after hearing this. Elder Janai looked solemn. This level of giant monsters once appeared on the Red Lotus continent in ancient times. That is a kind of existence that we call mythical creatures. They have survived from ancient times, and most of them are in deep sleep. Every time this kind of mythical creature appears, it will cause a huge disaster, but at the same time they are also endless treasures. Their body, bones, fur, organs, all kinds of material structures can be refined into treasures and elixirs. Every time they appear, a large number of sect masters will attack and besiege those mythical creatures. To deal with this kind of thing, a large-scale formation is required. My Taoist sect has a 9 heavens immortal execution formation, which requires 9 masters of the earth immortal Dao level to perform. Borrowing the most rigid and yang thunder power between heaven and earth, it can explode the power of the earth immortal Dao 100 times. Now that the thunder of heaven and earth is revealed in this area, it is the time of heaven. The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 415. Secondly, it will definitely come to us. We just need to wait for it to tire out. This is the geographical advantage. This time, 9 fellow disciples of my Dao sect came, just enough to form this formation. This is the human advantage. We have the advantages of time, place, and people. As long as we use this formation and borrow the original thunder between heaven and earth, the power of the formation will definitely be improved. Once the formation is completed, even the people of Tianxian Dao will not dare to try it easily. Lin Donglei heard this and showed a hint of joy in his eyes. "Oh, there is such a formation. I don't know what this white formation needs. The Empire will prepare it for you immediately." The corner of Janai Dao's mouth showed a smile. To use this formation, many treasures are needed. Among them are 1,000-year-old cinnabar, 9 jars of mercury, and 900 pieces of talisman paper made of 100-year-old peach wood. These things I also brought some this time, but it's only enough for one use. After using it up, the formation can no longer be used. So if the Empire wants us to continue to contribute, you need to provide more of these things. In my opinion, there will be many monsters of this level. Judging from the current situation, there may be someone behind the scenes controlling these strange beings. Otherwise, after hundreds of thousands of strange beings entered the strange illusion, there would be such beings appearing again immediately. Lin Donglei nodded and said, "The Taoist priest is right. I will immediately notify the Empire to find and collect these things for you. Please help the Taoist priest to solve this monster." The Taoist priest Janai glanced at Zhao Wushuan. Just now, the strange side used their methods and showed mysterious power. Next, their sect must also come up with something, otherwise they will be outdone. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he looked at Lin Donglei and said, "Marshal, please rest assured. I will call my fellow apprentices to take action now." Lin Donglei stood up from his seat and said to Master Janai, "Thank you, Master, and your fellow apprentices." Master Janai nodded, turned around and left the combat command center with a graceful demeanor. A few minutes later, 9 rays of light rose from the combat command center and rushed towards the battlefield in a flash. Soon they arrived at a location several 10 kilometers in the direction of the giant monster. They carefully avoided the height of the strange illusion. 9 people stood in 9 directions, and Master Genii stood at the top. A jar of 1,000-year-old cinnabar appeared in his hand, and then a blue but crystal clear sword appeared in his hand. A piece of deep red cinnabar flew out of the cinnabar jar. It was like a swimming dragon, quickly covering the entire sword body, leaving countless fine words on it. These cinnabars quickly turned red, as if they were ignited. Until the cinnabar in the cinnabar pot was completely integrated into the surface of the long sword. This crystal blue long sword was already covered with red light patterns, and the other 8 Taoists had also done all this. I saw the 9 of them waving their sleeves, and a silver light gushed out from their cuffs, which was countless mercury liquid. These mercury quickly changed and extended in mid-air, connected to each other, and finally formed a huge 3-dimensional mysterious structure. Countless nodes appeared in this huge mercury structure, and at the same time, talisman papers flew out of their hands. These talisman papers were all integrated into the nodes of the mercury structure. I saw the 9 of them waving their swords, and red words flew out of their swords and were quickly engraved on the talisman papers at this node. In an instant, different mysterious words appeared on these talisman papers. These are the words that the masters of practicing Taoism finally deciphered by understanding the mysteries of heaven and earth. At this time, the words are called Taoist texts. It is said that each of these words communicates heaven and earth and has mysterious power. Even all the Taoist methods can be analyzed from these Taoist texts, written as words, seals, etc. As different Taoist texts appeared on these talisman papers, the entire crystal structure began to extract a large amount of energy from the void. The huge dark clouds and thunder and lightning in the sky can be seen with the naked eye. Endless lightning seemed to be attracted and swarmed towards this mysterious mercury structure. Silver lightning fell like raindrops, spectacular and magnificent. They filled the entire mercury structure with lightning at an astonishing speed. Thin filaments of lightning flashed continuously in this structure. The 9 Taoist sects were separated from each other, and violent power surged wildly. A destructive breath spread from the middle of this huge structure to the surroundings. The lightning flashed rapidly and expanded outward. In a short time, an area of more than 30 kilometers in radius was covered by lightning. At this time, the giant monster was also approaching, slowly walking from a distance, and was approaching here rapidly. Countless strange powers emanated from its body, turning into a huge black fog, submerging everything around it. Countless huge tentacles were waving wildly, killing all beings who dared to approach. Wherever it passed, there was no living thing, even the same strange beings were not allowed to survive. But the area covered by its power was only about 1 kilometer, which was much different from the Deus Ex 9 Heaven's immortal execution formation. If the Deus Ex formation was a football, then the fog formed by this giant monster was a table tennis ball. The two forces quickly approached, and then a huge collision occurred. The endless lightning completely enveloped the black fog area, and the black fog that touched the lightning began to evaporate wildly. However, a steady stream of black fog permeated from the giant monster, resisting the baptism of 4 weeks of thunder. In the middle of the thunder, Taoist Master Genii looked at the scene in front of him, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. A voice sounded in the ears of his fellow disciples. Change the Xuxian sword. Under the control of the 9 array eyes, the formation began to undergo strange changes. They each made different hand seals, and countless lightnings quickly gathered towards the center of the mercury structure. Along the structure formed by mercury, electric lights appeared one by one. 10 seconds later, countless lightnings gathered into a pure silver sword. This magic sword is 3 feet long, and it is densely covered with silver Taoist texts, and a terrifying killing force permeates from it. Endless thunder light flickered around this magic sword. At this time, the giant monster had arrived near them. I saw Master Genii narrow his eyes, then put his right index finger and middle finger together, and pointed a sword gesture at the giant. The next moment, the 3-meter-long sword flashed out of the mercury structure. With an unmatched silver glow, it fell straight from the sky and slashed towards the giant's head. Endless lightning was attracted at the same time and fell from the dark clouds at the same time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 416. Wrapped around this huge sword, a huge thunder network covering hundreds of meters in radius was formed. Faced with the huge danger falling from the sky, the giant monster also reacted quickly. Violent black light surged out of its body and gathered in its tentacles. Tentacles were like meteors going against the sky, smashing towards the thunder network falling from the sky. The tentacles were entangled with each other in mid-air, forming a huge tentacles in the shape of twists. Countless black lights filled the huge tentacles layer by layer. In just a moment, a giant tentacle with a diameter of 10 meters appeared. The tip of the tentacle turned into a black and smooth tumor like a sphere. The surface of the tumor was covered with countless black lights, almost turning into substance, like a huge meteor hammer. The huge sword and the huge tumor collided with each other at lightning speed. The violent power continued to collide crazily and trembled constantly. The sound of crazy gas explosions rang out in the void. Endless forces collided with each other crazily, and everything was destroyed by the force of the collision between the two. The air and matter were directly beaten into a vacuum. A deep darkness appeared between the two. And at this moment, a silver light shot out from the darkness. It directly cut through the huge tentacle aggregate, and spread along the huge tentacle section to the body of the giant. The silver light was like the sharpest blade, effortlessly splitting the huge tentacle from the center. In the end, this silver light penetrated the entire body of the giant along the tentacle. A huge wound more than 10 meters long penetrated the giant's chest and back. Originally, the sword light should have pierced the giant's head, but at the most dangerous moment, the giant raised his head a few meters away. Avoided the slashing root of the silver sword light. A huge and angry roar roared out of the giant's mouth. Black blood gushed out of its wound, like a rainstorm, covering the ground. Countless black smoke rose from the ground, full of corrosive liquid, causing countless pits on the ground. After the rage, the giant monster looked at the silver core in the sky with hatred. Taoist Master Genai and his fellow disciples all looked solemn. Originally, Taoist Master Genai planned to kill it with one blow, using the highest change of the formation to kill the giant monster directly. But now it seems that this monster is not so easy to kill, and it has a high level of wisdom. Countless silver lightnings are attached to the giant monster's wound, continuously preventing the giant monster's body from recovering. The muscles at the giant monster's wound are squirming frantically, trying to reconnect together. Obviously this is a monster with strong recovery ability. Taoist Master Genai naturally saw this scene, and a sneer appeared on his face. If it doesn't work once, then try again the second time to see how long you can hold on. Thinking of this, a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth, and the sword in his hand flashed again. The other fellow disciples immediately cooperated with him, and the endless lightning in the dark clouds in the sky fell again, and gathered at the core of the silver structure to form the second Xuxian sword. Once the sword was formed, it exploded instantly. Like a silver stream of light descending again, it chopped down at the severely injured monster. This time the giant monster did not resist, but suddenly sprayed out countless black smoke, completely submerging it. Then it quickly began to move in the smoke, trying to avoid the Xuxian sword shrouded in countless silver lightning. Unfortunately, its idea was doomed to fail. This sword light was so sharp, and it was controlled by Master Genai, so it was naturally not so easy to crack. Master Genai showed a sneer on his face, watching the giant's clumsy performance. Wisdom is only this little bit. We don't know how many mythical monsters like this have encountered in the distant past. There is already a complete way to deal with it. I saw him turn his sword tactics, and the sword light that was originally chopped straight down began to rotate rapidly. A huge vortex drove the thunder around, and instantly turned into a thunder vortex. Countless mists were swept away in an instant after they came into contact with the thunder vortex. After the mist was swept away, the body of the giant was directly exposed. At this time, countless tentacles of the giant grew out, completely wrapping its body, and it looked like a huge meat cocoon. In the center of the giant, a terrifying force was gathering. At this time, several people in the formation noticed the changes in the huge meat cocoon. In the center of the silver thunder vortex, the Xuanhuan sword began to rotate rapidly at an even more astonishing speed, and then stabbed horizontally towards the center of the meat cocoon. The terrifying light flashed and penetrated the entire meat cocoon, and a ball of black light burst out from the meat cocoon instantly. A huge shock wave exploded from the meat cocoon and spread to the surroundings. An angry head rose from the meat cocoon, but when it flew to the middle of the air, it could be seen that the neck under the head had already been broken. It opened its huge mouth and bit towards the formation in the sky, as if it wanted to make a final attack. But its result would be very helpless. All attacks were ineffective. It stopped gaining altitude in mid-air and crashed towards the ground under the influence of gravity. At this time, in the center of the formation, endless lightning gathered again. A terrifying sword light came down in an instant and pierced the huge head. The endless lightning raged, and in an instant, the head was burned to ashes. Seeing the giant monster being destroyed, a smile appeared in Master Jinai's eyes. This time he showed the style of Dao's own. Whether it is the Red Lotus Empire, other sects, or the weird side, after seeing the power of Dao's own, they will deeply understand how powerful Dao's own is. He swept his eyes over his fellow disciples and slightly adjusted his clothes. Let's go, our business is over. At this time, everyone in the front-line combat command center who saw this gorgeous war was stunned. Especially Marshal Lin Donglei, it was the first time he saw this level of supernatural power battle. Although there is no horror of the sun god, this is the power of human beings. He felt an inexplicable excitement in his heart. Maybe I can also be like them, freely galloping across the sky, exerting my strength, and killing everything. The great power belongs to oneself, and this charm is a temptation that no life can resist. Not only him, but everyone present was attracted by this battle. This is a war between the truly strong. Even in the face of seemingly unstoppable monsters, humans can win with their own strength. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 417. This battle was like a shot of adrenaline, giving a glimmer of hope to all those who were afraid of strange existences. Thinking of this, Lin Donglei immediately made a decision to send the video of this war back to the empire. Ask the imperial capital if this video can be made public. This will inevitably arouse a stronger cultivation craze, but at the same time it will also increase the influence of the sect in the empire. This will inevitably affect the distribution of power in the entire empire. However, for the entire human race, this will be a good thing. It will maximize the level of civilization of human beings in cultivation. At the location of the North Pole, in the crack of time and space, the demise of the giant monster is felt. Ai Ching couldn't help but frown. So powerful, will all strange beings of this level be killed? It seems that I have underestimated the power of the Red Lotus Empire. Thinking of this, a cold light appeared in his eyes. Then, let's accumulate strength for a while. You can kill a strange giant, but can you kill 2, 3, or even more? The door to the other world has been opened, and the most lacking thing is these strange beings. As long as there is enough time, there will be billions of strange beings coming, and the whole world will be turned into scorched earth. Bring death to all places. And this is only part of the plan, and soon you will have no chance. Ai Ching's eyes were only cold, full of justice to bring fairness to everyone. The war on the front line came to an end temporarily, and fell into a strange calm. Only the endless lightning continued to fall, evaporating the strange power. In the cracks of time and space, there were still low-level strange beings rushing out at this time. However, due to the strange illusion and the clearing and blocking of military robots, they could not break out of the energy barrier area. Other places in the Red Lotus Empire remained peaceful. At the same time, in the Imperial Parliament Hall, a scene was being played in which Taoist Master Janai led his fellow disciples to perform a large formation to kill the giant monster. Everyone took a breath after seeing this horrible war. Especially those parliamentarians who had no power were a little terrified. The governors of various places in the Red Lotus realm were calm. 8 of the 9 governors were born in the sects, so they were naturally very clear about the power of the sects. The Prime Minister sat in his seat, looking at the scene in the picture with a calm face, and it was unknown what he was thinking. And another person in this hall, the mysterious strong man of the empire, Xuanhuan, was not very moved after seeing this war. He seemed to be accustomed to it, so he could take it calmly. At this time, the Prime Minister slowly spoke. This is the battlefield picture sent back by the frontline Marshal Lin Donglei. He means whether to make this picture public to enhance the interest and enthusiasm of the whole people in cultivation. All the members present immediately realized the problem. One of the members immediately said, "No, once it is announced, it will inevitably cause an uproar. The matter of the North Pole and the large-scale invasion of the alien world must not be announced. Otherwise, it will inevitably disrupt the order and stability of the empire. We must stabilize the rear to stabilize the war situation. Although this picture must be powerful, we are not without other methods. If you want to enhance the interest of the whole people in cultivation, you can use other means. There is no need to risk the empire into chaos to do this." Hearing this, all the members nodded slightly, and they all agreed with the words of this member. Unexpectedly, 7 of the other 8 governors did not object to this matter. Only the governor who was born in Dao Zone raised objections. The Prime Minister watched all this silently. He naturally knew that this was an internal competition between the sects. It seems that there is no peace in their sects, and there are deep contradictions. They don't want anyone to dominate. This is an opportunity. Maybe I should plan to win over the sects that are close to the empire. There are 33 sects in Honglian. I don't believe that the weakest sect has not been excluded. At this time, Xuanhuan seemed to have noticed the Prime Minister's thoughts and glanced at him slightly. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In the end, this matter was not passed, and this video was also destroyed. In the martial arts hall of the Dao sect in Honglian City, the Dao sect is in charge of a top master of the ghost immortal Dao. One of the 36 Tiangang stars. A trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. It seems that this empire is still very wary of the section. At this time, he had received news from the sect, asking him to find a way to expand the influence of the Dao sect in Honglian City. At the same time, he secretly tried to spread the information of the front battlefield, and it was best not to attract other people's attention. It has to be said that this is a very difficult task. It is not easy not to attract other people's attention. After all, as long as he does this, other forces will easily think of their Dao sect. The sect has given me a difficult problem. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shook his head slightly. In the Wanchaiwu, Lin Yi had already returned. After solving the incident of the delegation, he was waiting to receive the reward this time. But he came back with the 1,000 faces human skin. If the Empire wants to deny the heavenly crystal for some reason, then the 1,000 faces human skin will belong to him. As a price to replace the heavenly crystal, he can barely accept the 1,000 faces human skin. At this time, It was already past 12 o'clock in the Wanqi house, and a wave of strange beings came. He felt that the strange power in the Wanqi house had increased again. At this time, Absinthe was reporting to him what happened in the Wanqi house. It turned out that tonight, the Wanqi house was about to face 5 strange beings of the human immortal level. But at this time, the combat power of all the people in the Wanqi house, except Brandy, has been greatly improved. The 5 strange beings did not cause any waves, and they were killed the moment they came. At this time, Lin Yi connected to the core of the strange object and checked that the energy concentration of the black stone slab mobile thatched house had reached 1200%. This means that the Wanqi house can move 12 times, which will greatly improve the safety of the Wanqi house. It was already 3 o'clock in the morning. Lin Yi looked at the time and let Absinthe go to rest. He sat alone on the sofa, looking at the world outside shrouded in mist, with a trace of thought in his eyes. The next thing is the most important thing, to find out who assassinated me. I can't sleep or eat well if this matter is not resolved. Thinking of this, a plan gradually emerged in his mind. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 418. At this moment, the power of the Wish Shrine appeared again. The door of the Wanchaiwu was dyed red, like the light of blood. A piece of A4-sized white paper floated out from it, with a piece of black text on it. The strange child had come to the door silently and caught the white paper. Lin Yi took the paper from the strange child and looked at the text on it, and was stunned. This is a piece of text with very neat handwriting, even very beautiful, and there is a fragrance. Mysterious existence, my name is Kurori. When the red door and the mysterious message appeared in my mind, I couldn't believe it. If you can really fulfill my wish, I hope you can save our company. Our company encountered a business trap. My father signed a contract, but because the company's production plant was destroyed, it was unable to ship. We need 10 times compensation for this business, which will directly lead to the bankruptcy of the company. Mysterious existence, if you can save my father's company, I am willing to pay any price, please save me. Looking at the content on the paper, Lin Yi's heart moved, and the light of the true destiny flashed in his eyes. On this note of Dongxiu, he saw the other party's breath. At least it is the breath of the human immortal level, and he was thinking in his heart. The world where cultivators exist is not a completely ordinary world. That is to say, the resources for cultivation on the other side are guaranteed, which can allow me to continue to climb. As a substitute world for the Red Lotus world, it seems to be a good choice. But we must first find out how powerful this family's opponent is. It's a commercial issue. Since the contract has been signed, as long as the contract disappears, the matter will be resolved. After all, if the most critical evidence is missing in a lawsuit, then it will definitely lose. Thinking of this, a faint sneer appeared at the corner of Lin Yi's mouth. And it's just right to use the power of this company to cover up the arrival of the Wanchaiwu. Thinking of this, Lin Yi already had a complete set of plans in his mind, perfect. But for the sake of caution, we have to investigate carefully. Thinking of this, he picked up a pen and began to write down his questions on this paper. First, question 1, what is the highest level of combat power of your enemy company? Write down the detailed power level of your world. Question 2, how many original copies of the contract you signed are there, and how many of them are in the hands of the enemy company? After writing these 2 questions, Lin Yi handed it to the strange child. The strange child took the paper and quickly threw it into the red door. After doing all this, the fog in the Wanchaiwu began to dissipate rapidly. It is obvious that the crisis tonight has been resolved. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi did not stay in the lobby any longer, turned back to his room, and began to continue practicing the skills of the ghost immortal Dao. Although he condensed the soul of the swallowing thief, Lin Yi was not familiar with it. So he needed more time to get familiar with the soul of the swallowing thief. Time passed in a blink of an eye and it was a night. The Wanchaiwu was busy early in the morning. Especially brandy, absinthe, and vodka, who cleaned and cooked, with clear division of labor and fast efficiency. Only whiskey was squatting in the backyard, looking up at the sky, which was gradually turning red. Unlike ordinary strange beings, it was not harmed by the sun's radiance. Because the entire Wanchaiwu was shrouded in a force that isolated time and space. Although the current Red Lotus realm sun has the mysterious property of burning all strange things. But it cannot harm the strange beings in the Wanchaiwu and the beings that descended from the other world. It only has an effect on animals and resentful spirits infected by strange forces. At this time, Whiskey's eyes flashed with a kind of wisdom. He was observing the whole world in a daze, and from time to time he saw a big bird flying in the sky, revealing a trace of curiosity. Since he swallowed the soul of the Earl of Bailey, his wisdom has increased day by day. At the same time, he learned a lot of common sense from absinthe and brandy, and has gradually become a childlike person. At least his wisdom has the knowledge reserve of a 5 or 6-year-old child, but his ability to act is like a normal adult. Unlike children, many things need to be taught many times before they can understand. At this time, the strange child appeared beside him at some point. Looking at Whiskey, he could clearly feel that he was different from the past. He seemed to be more like a human. The strange child stood in the yard, just looking at Whiskey quietly, not knowing what he was thinking, or thinking nothing. At this time, a small head poked out from the corner of the backyard of the Wanshi house. This is a monster with red skin and a devil-like appearance holding a trident. There was a cunning light flashing in his eyes, and it was obviously a thing with extremely high intelligence. And it appeared in the Wanshi house during the day. His eyes saw the strange child and Whiskey, and fear appeared on his face. The head that stretched out quickly retracted, but a pair of small eyes hid in the weird distortion of the corner and stared outside. Seems to be waiting for them to leave before he goes out. And at this time, as if hearing his wish, the strange child slowly disappeared. Whiskey stood up and walked towards the corridor of the Wanchaiwu. He disappeared behind the curtain of the corridor in a few steps. Seeing the two extremely threatening existences disappear, the red-skinned little devil got out of the twist in the corner. He had a smile on his face, holding a small trident in his right hand, with his left hand on his waist, looking very proud. He looked very smart. But just when he looked up at the sky with pride, a pair of dark eyes appeared above his head, looking at him coldly. I don't know when, the strange child has floated to his head, floating horizontally in the air, looking straight at him. The red-skinned little devil seemed to be scared silly, with a dull face, looking at the strange child who appeared above his head at some point. Then his expression changed very richly. From dull to fear, it was just a moment. Then he kept a terrified look on his face, and stretched his legs slightly backward. At this time, he was only one step away from the twisted corner where he came out. But at this moment, countless black smoke tentacles had already fallen from behind the strange child. Cut off his retreat. The red-skinned little devil froze, his eyes panicked on his terrified face, and his whole body was shaking, like a frightened quail. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 419. At this time, the strange child stretched out his hand and grabbed the red-skinned little devil. Like a frightened rabbit, the red-skinned man jumped up instantly and rushed towards the lobby corridor. But before he could run 2 steps, he was surrounded by black smoke tentacles. His short legs had not run 1 meter. He was tied up by the tentacles and hung upside down in front of the strange child. The strange child stretched out his right index finger and gently stabbed the belly of the little devil. The belly of this guy was very soft and bulging, and the feeling of a full belly of fat intestines was slightly sunken under the strange child's fingers. At this time, the little devil seemed to be humiliated, holding his trident and stabbing at the strange child's finger. But the strange child retracted his hand in an instant. His eyes were still cold and ruthless, looking at the red-skinned little devil. As if the playful behavior just now had never happened. The strange child was very alert, that was his fighting instinct. He would not allow any unknown existence to attack him. Especially this strange existence, which seemed small, but before it was confirmed to be safe, no one knew what hidden abilities it had. After all, the biggest feature of strange existence was the ability to ignore any level to produce effects. The red-skinned little devil looked at the strange child who had retracted his fingers cleverly, with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. Obviously he really wanted to activate some ability. But the strange child did not give him any chance. The black smoke tentacles spread along his calves and toward his body. He was tied up like a dumpling, and the trident in his right hand was pulled off at the same time. In the end, only the head of the red-skinned little devil was exposed outside the black smoke tentacles, and no matter how he struggled, it was useless. At this time, a shadow walked out of the corridor. It was Lin Yi, and his eyes fell on the red-skinned little devil caught by the strange child. The light of the true destiny in his eyes flashed, and everything about the red-skinned little devil was revealed. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. This is really very interesting. It seems that it is not just a strange existence, but a kind of life form. A life form that has mastered the strange power. Strange existence is not a life form. Lin Yi has already seen through the essence of these strange existences through the true destiny. They are all just things born under the power of strange power, and they do not have any consciousness or life signs. Even the masked gentleman who appeared outside the Wanchai. Although it has the same wisdom as life, it is still not a life form, but an unknown existence born from strange power. The essence of this unknown existence has strong emotions. It can even be understood as an object produced by the fusion of emotions and strange power. The purpose of its existence is to vent some emotions at the core of its essence. And most of these emotions are negative. For example, destruction, killing, pain, anger, etc. But the red-skinned little devil in front of him is not the case at all. Lin Yi saw a black soul and a decayed vitality in his body. Although these things seem to be very negative, they are the characteristics of life, strange life forms. At this time, his eyes fell on the small trident next to him. He could see everything the strange child had experienced, and naturally knew that the red-skinned little devil wanted to use this trident to stab the strange child just now. A faint spiritual wave flowed out from his hand, quickly wrapping and refining the small trident. Then he knew what this thing was. Interesting, the trident of pain. The biggest function of this trident is that anyone who is stabbed by it will be instantly detonated with pain. This kind of pain will make the stabbed person lose control of himself in an instant. The lasting effect is 1 second, and no creature can be immune to this 1 second. Seeing this data, Lin Yi's eyebrows jumped. 1 second may not seem like much, but it is enough to deliver a fatal blow in battle. He even thought about using the trident of pain to attack his enemy. Let the opponent completely lose the ability to be independent within 1 second. Then he can make full use of this second to launch a fatal attack on the enemy. Thinking of this, he couldn't help showing a hint of surprise in his eyes. This is a pleasant surprise. This thing is even more useful than the blood ring and the wailing ring. At this time, his eyes fell on the red-skinned little devil. Can you understand what I'm saying? The red-skinned little devil looked at Lin Yi, and he knew that the person in front of him was probably the boss here. Thinking that he had fallen into the hands of the enemy, he immediately nodded vigorously. Although he was now hanging upside down, it looked very funny. But he still tried to show himself. Lin Yi looked at him, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The red-skinned little devil looked at Lin Yi's smile and shuddered. A note appeared in Lin Yi's hand. Then he put the note on the ground. The weird child slowly put the red-skinned little devil on the ground. Loosen his arms, allowing it to wave his hands freely. Lin Yi's voice echoed coldly in the ears of the red-skinned little devil. Write down a wish, and then write that you are willing to become my slave as a price, and I will help you realize your wish. The content of the wish is to let you survive. When the red-skinned little devil heard this, his whole body froze, and he looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. He seemed to be unable to imagine that there would be such a shameless person in this world. But looking at Lin Yi's evil smile, he shuddered. He knew that if he didn't write it like this, he would die without a burial place. Then he could only write down the wish according to Lin Yi's words. A deep red power emerged from his fingers, leaving red words on the paper. This is a kind of weird text, strange in shape, full of an evil fluctuation. Lin Yi just looked at these words and felt a negative emotion rising from the bottom of his heart. But at this time, the lotus god jade bloomed with mysterious power, sweeping away this negative emotion. Lin Yi's face was calm, but he was thinking secretly in his heart. Words are a manifestation of civilization, which means that there is also civilization in that mysterious other world. How can such a horrible place form a civilization? No matter how you look at it, it's problematic. It seems that this little thing can solve many of my questions. After the red-skinned monster wrote the content on the note according to Lin Yi's requirements, Lin Yi waved the note away. It flew quickly to the lobby under a mysterious force and landed in the incense burner of the Wish Shrine. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 420. The next moment, the note was back in Lin Yi's hand. At this time, it is entangled with the power of the Wish Shrine. Lin Yi held the note in his hand. I immediately understood the message contained in the evil words above. What he explained was exactly word for word, and Lin Yi showed a trace of satisfaction in his eyes. Then I wrote a few words under the text. Contract reached. As the writing was completed, the note naturally turned into ashes without wind. A mysterious force instantly enveloped the little red thing. A contract like vodka was formed between Lin Yi and him. At this time, the little red monster also noticed the problem, and his face became incredulous. He blurted out the language of the Red Lotus realm. Items of the law of cause and effect, how is that possible? Damn it, I've been tricked. But then he suddenly understood and looked at his hands in surprise. Apparently he noticed that he was speaking of an unknown prophecy. Originally, he could only understand Lin Yi's words but could not speak them out. Lin Yi looked at it and said in a low voice, "It seems you can speak the language of the Red Lotus realm. Then let's have a good chat. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am your master, Lin Yi, the store manager of Wanchaiwu. And you, little red-skinned monster." The little red-skinned devil had been completely released by the strange child and fell to the ground. Although he became Lin Yi's slave, he still had a bad face when facing Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at Lin Yi with a displeased expression, but when he thought of the contract on his body, he squatted on the ground dejectedly like a pickled eggplant. He looked up at Lin Yi and said helplessly, "My name is Hong, and I am a red-skinned person from another world. I ran away secretly, you'd better let me go back. Otherwise you will be in danger of being unable to fight when my people come for me." Listening to Hong's threat, a happy smile appeared on Lin Yi's face. "Your threats are not a deterrent at all. Then now tell me what the other world is all about. Why do you frequently appear in the Red Lotus world?" Hong looked at Lin Yi and said with contempt, "There is no way you can know information about other worlds from me. It's impossible even if we sign a contract. Everything in the other world represents mystery, and mystery means unknowable. Even if it's us, as long as we leave the other world, any important information related to the other world will naturally disappear from our memory. The only thing I remember is the information about our family. Unless I return to another world, I can get back my memories. So you don't have to waste your time with me, I don't know anything. Hong seemed very proud as he said that, with his hands on his hips as if he was great. When Lin Yi heard this, he was indeed a little surprised, because what Hong said was true. He can sense everything the other person is thinking in his mind. I couldn't help but be a little surprised. The other world is really mysterious, it actually has such strange rules. Okay, then I won't ask you about the information about the other world. You can always tell me the information about your red-skinned people. Hong's eyes looked at Lin Yi, with a trace of anger in his eyes. But there is no other way, he can only come as it is. All the members of the red-skin tribe are red-skinned. We have mastered the evil writing and the method of making the trident of pain. We have our own country and civilization, and we dominate the world. I'm just the weakest newborn among the redskins. The powerful beings in our tribe are thousands of meters tall and can destroy any world. Hearing this, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. What the other party said was true. This means that the strange existences in the other world that he saw are just the tip of the iceberg of the other world that is exposed. Thinking of this, the worry in his heart became more serious. Because there seems to be no one in the Red Lotus world who can compete with this kind of existence. Lin Yi looked at the little red-skinned monster and said in a low voice. What is the power level within your race? The red-skinned monster glanced at Lin Yi and said in a low voice, the newborn, the mature, and the final. What is your social structure like? Our civilization consists of kings, great nobles, and common people. All the newborns are commoners, all the mature ones are great nobles, and there is only one finalist in each kingdom. When Lin Yi heard this, he understood in his heart, does this mean that once a new ultimate is born, your kingdom will split into two? Hong nodded and said, either the two ultimates fight to determine the final winner and become the new king. Either the new ultimates leave the kingdom and establish their own kingdom. Generally, the finalists will leave with their closest subordinates and former subjects. Hearing this, Lin Yi's eyes showed a hint of thoughtfulness. Generally, how many redskins are there in a kingdom, and how many are there at each level? Hong Vinyan thought for a while and said, our kingdom usually has 1,000 tribesmen. Usually there are 5 big nobles, each big noble has 200 people, and there is a king. Hearing this, Lin Yi nodded, so do you know how many kingdoms your race has? Hong stared at Lin Yi when he heard this. He seemed to feel that Lin Yi had ill intentions towards his race. We currently have 12 kingdoms in total. Are the kingdoms in a cooperative, competitive, or other relationship? Have any organizations been established between the kingdoms? Hong looked at Lin Yi in surprise, as if he was surprised that the other party had guessed the key point. The kingdoms are in an alliance relationship. We have established an organization called the Kingdom Council. That is a meeting that only the king and the nobles can attend. The meeting will determine the territory and development direction of all kingdoms, etc. Lin Yi continued to ask, then what level am I in your race? As he spoke, the power of the ghost immortal way and the human immortal way permeated Lin Yi's hands, and he even opened the true source of life and forcibly absorbed the energy in the air. Instantly raised his own combat power to the peak. Looking at this scene, Hong showed a trace of horror on his face, as if he had seen something incredible. Lin Yi knew his level in the eyes of the other party from Hong's mind. A great noble. That is to say, a great noble is only at the level of Ghost Immortal Deo, which is already the middle level in the Red Clan. Then the king must be above this, much stronger, and can destroy the world. Could it be Heavenly Immortal Deo? Then it can be judged that the Red Clan is definitely not weak. How powerful does it have to be to destroy the world?